Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all of our beautiful viewers at home. Welcome to MATIN Talks. I am excited to get started, and we would like to start in the most blessed of ways by inviting Brother Muhammad to recite Quran for us. Bismillah, Brother Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبحان الذي يسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. وآتينا موسى الكتاب وجعلناه هدى لبني إسرائيل ألا تتخذوا من دوني وكيلا ذرية من حملنا مع نوح إنه كان عبدا شكورا. وقضينا إلى بني إسرائيل في الكتاب لتفسدن في الأرض مرتين ولتعلن علوا كبيرا. فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا. ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليهم وأمددناكم بأموال وبنين وجعلناكم أكثر نفيرا. إن أحسنتم أحسنتم لأنفسكم وإن أسأتم فلها. فإذا جاء وعد الآخرة ليسوءوا وجوهكم وليدخلوا المسجد كما دخلوه أول مرة وليتبروا ما علوا تتبيرا. عسى ربكم أن يرحمكم وإن عدتم عدنا وجعلنا جهنم للكافرين حصيرا. إن هذا القرآن يهدي للتي هي أقوم ويبشر المؤمنين الذين يعملون الصالحات أن لهم أجرا كبيرا. وأن الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة أعتدنا لهم عذابا أليما. ويدعو الإنسان بالشر دعاءه بالخير وكان الإنسان عجولا. وجعلنا الليل والنهار آيتين فمحونا آية الليل وجعلنا آية النهار مبصرة لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم ولتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you so much, Brother Muhammad, for that beautiful Quran recitation. I would like to now read the English translation for everyone, if that's okay, for those of us who don't immediately know it. So, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, exalted is He who took His servant by night from Masjid al-Haram to al-Masjid al-Aqsa, whose surroundings we have blessed, to show Him of our signs. Indeed, He is the hearing, the seeing. And we gave Moses the scripture and made it a guidance for the children of Israel, that you not take other than me as disposer of affairs. O descendants of those we carried in the ship with Noah, indeed he was a grateful servant. And we conveyed to the children of Israel in the scripture that you will surely cause corruption on the earth twice, and you will surely reach a degree of great haughtiness. So when the time of promise came for the first of them, we sent against you servants of ours, those of great military might, and they probed even into the homes, and it was a promise fulfilled. Then we gave back to you a return victory over them, and we reinforced you with wealth and sons, and made you more numerous in manpower. And said, if you do good for yourselves, and if you do evil, you do it to yourselves. Then, when the final promise came, we sent your enemies to sadden your faces and to enter the temple in Jerusalem as they entered it the first time, and to destroy what they had taken over with total destruction. Then Allah said, it is expected if you repent that your Lord will have mercy upon you. But if you return to sin, we will return to punishment, and we have made hell for the disbelievers a prison bed. Indeed, this Quran guides to that which is most suitable and gives good tidings to the believers who do righteous deeds, that they will have a great reward. And those who do not believe in the hereafter, we have prepared for them a painful punishment. And man supplicates for evil as he supplicates for good, and man is ever hasty. And we have made the night and day two signs, and we erased the sign of the night and made the sign of the day visible, that you may seek bounty from your Lord and may know the number of years and the account of time. And everything we have set out in detail. Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you again, everyone. Welcome to MATIN Talks. For those of you who joined yesterday, I know that you all surely remember my humble request that you pray and recite blessings upon the Prophet and his blessed family with me, that is, recite a salawat. I know that you're not all here with me, and so I would really appreciate if from your homes you would also do one out loud. So let's do a quick trial run. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Welcome again. For the third time, I'm welcoming you. Clearly, I really want you to feel welcomed. This is a really exciting day. Today's our second ever virtual MATIN Talks. Yesterday was our first ever. We're still making history because there's never been a second one. So those of you who missed out yesterday on history making, welcome to today. And so before we talk about the contestants, I know we're all eager to listen to them. Let me quickly, for those of us who aren't aware or want to just hear it one more time, let's talk about what MATIN Talks is. So 5 years ago, created by MSA-PSG, MATIN Talks is a platform for Muslims of all backgrounds to present their creative ideas and analysis on the important issues of our day. The MATIN Talks Forum is an exciting and, in my opinion, honestly fun way through which participants can speak to a broad audience, and they do so in 10-minute TED Talk style formats. So today, it's going to look a little different. If you're used to MATIN Talks Local, which, you know, we all miss them. Inshallah, after coronavirus, we can all go back to that. But normally, MATIN Talks Local is held in local communities, and it culminates at a national conference. Normally, adults and juniors are all in the same category. Normally, in the final round, it's a panel of judges who vote again. This time, things have changed. While one is the obvious one, we're virtual. 2, adults and juniors are participating in separate events. If you missed adults, they were amazing, and it happened yesterday. You can find out what happened on the MSA-PSG YouTube page or the MATIN Talks Facebook page. Third, when normally people go up, it's a panel of judges that vote on them, like vote on their presentations. This time it's going to be the audience voting, aka you. So yes, you are going to be a judge, and that's, I think, a really important responsibility, so take it seriously. What hasn't changed though are the prizes, and I appreciate that. First and second place both get cash prizes. First place gets $500 and second place gets $250. And third place also gets a prize of, if I'm not mistaken, $100. Awesome, I wasn't mistaken. This is good. Okay, so cash prizes, and they are automatically entered into round 1 of the national competition. So let's talk about this whole process of how do I even get to the national competition. So right now, MATIN Talks, I would say I've separated into 3. There's the application period where you submit a talk title, an abstract, a short biography of yourself, a headshot image, and 1-minute video pitch, okay? These applications are open to everyone. Then, of these applications, a select few are invited to round 1. In round 1, a panel of academics and ulama judges those contestants who made it, okay? These people are then judged. The top folks from this group move on to round 2. Round 2 is what you're seeing. In other words, every contestant who will speak today not only made it through the application phase, but was invited to round 1 and was selected by the judges to now present, okay? In the national competition, the same 3 groups will be there, but the difference is that the folks who win today, the folks who get first, second, and third place, will automatically be entered into round 1. So they don't have to go through the application. That doesn't mean that they're automatically guaranteed a spot in the national stage, but they get to compete without applying, which I think is a really special piece. So that's how the process works. If you're interested, if that's sort of, you're like, wait a minute, that actually sounds really cool. I feel like I could do that. I honestly do think that you could probably do that. So I invite you to apply. You can check out MATIN Talks on their social media accounts and also their website. It's written exactly how it's written on this video. And you can either sign up by nominating yourself or someone you know, or by just following and making sure that you get a notification when they post about it, okay? So I know I mentioned this earlier, but it's really important. You are going to be the judges today, okay? So how are you going to judge? What is the criteria that you're going to use? What a great question. So as I ask it myself, criteria number 1, it has to be 10 minutes maximum, okay? So we are serious about the timing piece. 2, criteria number 2 is clear and effective presentation. This is a broad category, but I want to invite you to check on how well you feel like the contestant was able to convince you of their message. Were they able to keep you engaged? Were you able to clearly understand what they were conveying? These are signs of a clear and effective presentation. Finally, the talk is organized within an Islamic framework, okay? What that means, and I mentioned this yesterday also, is that it's not about sprinkles, right? It's not about, hi, I'm Muslim, therefore my talk is Islamic. No, right? It has to be organized through an Islamic framework. At the end, so these are the criteria. Please judge away as much as you can. Do so fairly and honestly, right? At the very end, after you hear from all 4 contestants today, I will let you know the instructions for how to cast your vote. What that also means is that you probably want to take notes or some way of keeping track of what your opinion is, who you think is doing well, how they're hitting the criteria. So I've already told you what the winner is going to get. I've already told you how to judge. Now I'm going to tell you what we're going to do today as a game plan. First, we're going to start with an amazing keynote speech from Dr. Movassat. I'll introduce her to you in a bit. Second, we're going to hear from each contestant. They will speak for 10 minutes. Exactly. Shout out to all the judges who remembered that. And finally, as you listen and as you judge them, at the end, we will provide a link for you to vote. I will also be making announcements throughout, and I will share more information about MATIN Talks. Feel free to engage with us on the YouTube chat or on social media. We look forward to it. This is going to be a really exciting day. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allow me to now introduce our keynote, Professor Movassat, who will be speaking to us about Islam along the Silk Road. So, Dr. Johanna Movassat graduated from Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles with a bachelor's in art history, and from the University of California, Berkeley, with a master's in art and a doctorate in Near Eastern Studies, art and archaeology. Mashallah, she studied a lot. So she attended the Goethe Institute in Berlin, continuing to study German, and lived in Iran for 5 years, where she studied Farsi. and she speaks English, as you'll see, so that makes her at least trilingual, mashallah. She has traveled throughout Europe and the Middle East, photographing works of art, and she's taught at UC Berkeley, City College of SF, and Santa Clara University. Inshallah, today she will be teaching us. So let's please invite her with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you, Talia, for a nice introduction. I am a retired professor now, so I have taught before, but today I am retired and babysitting, which is my joy. Today I'm going to be talking about Islam along the Silk Road, and it's really a brief introduction into some of the wonders of the Silk Road and Islam and how this all occurred. So on the first screen, I have a map of the Islamic world and the classical period, and you can see that it's pretty much encompasses all the major continents in the Eastern Hemisphere. But we know today that Muslims are in every country. So how did this happen? How did it get to be such a widespread? And although I won't bring it up too much into the modern period, I want you to think about what was the facilitating means by which Islam spread, and that was really the Silk Road. The Silk Road is not just a road or a route, it is a web of routes, as you can see by this map. And not even is this map complete, because we don't include Scandinavia up here to the north or Western Europe with Spain, but it gives you an idea, or even Africa in this case. But this web of routes, if you think about it as a web like the internet today, it was a means of communication, it was a means of trade, commerce, exchange of languages, of cultures, traditions, even food. And so it's an amazing series of routes. And there is some talk today about China, who is trying to expand its contacts through this area. And it's called the a new initiative that China is taking with the help of Iran and many countries along the Silk Road. So we are going to be seeing over the future a reenactment of this Silk Road, really quite exciting. So it's along this road that Islam spread. So what was it that made this road so amazing? And what was it that made this road such a feasible means of communication? Well, today we think about trains and planes and ships, and the Silk Road was basically donkeys and camels and boats. Boats through the sea routes, donkeys and camels through those routes that would, of course, be crossing over deserts with the camels, donkeys with the mountains. And how is this all possible? Well, this is not just something that occurred immediately in the Islamic period. We have the Silk Road going back at least to the period of time of the 2nd century BC with the Han Dynasty in China, but there are also indications that the Silk Road went all the way back several thousand years before, and that's something for the scholars to argue, but it's really quite exciting when you think about it. The idea that silk was such an important commodity, that's kind of hard for us to understand too. Silk doesn't really mean much besides the fact that I'm wearing a silk scarf today. But silk in this period of time, from the 2nd century BC, when the Han Dynasty really put all its efforts into exporting silk, till the period of time that we think of as the pre-modern world, silk was a major commodity and highly desired. So if you think about it today, you can also think about computers and cell phones. Those are the means by which today we are so making money. And it was certainly silk was the way of making money at that time. But in fact, when you think about the idea of silk, is it just the Silk Road? Was it that the only thing? No, it was the paper road. It was the road of science. It was the road of ceramics. It was the road of traditions, as I mentioned before. And of course, for us as Muslims, it was the road of Islam. So from the 8th century on, you have the spread of Islam along the Silk Road. Now, how is that possible? Why would the Islam be easily spread along the Silk Road? So if you think about, again, this map, think about what we are taught, what we are instructed by our imams, by our Holy Quran. What is the over and over again we're reminded, and what is that? It's to seek knowledge, to seek, to search, to find out, to understand, to explore, to learn as much as we possibly can, to reach out for those secrets of science and of mathematics and engineering, and in every aspect in every field. And this is something that Muslims have. This is what Islam gives us. So that, for example, the idea of, wearing a mask today is something that the Muslim countries say it's supposed to be listening to our health advisors. They will tell us what to do. That's the role of science. And in Islam, we say, listen to the health advisors. They tell us what to do. Other places, and unfortunately in this country, they reject this type of aspect. And if you don't seek knowledge, then you are like on a wave. You are being tossed around by one faction or another faction. And within Islam, you seek knowledge, you understand, you find the cures to what's going on in the world today. Search out, find those medicines that will help cure this terrible virus. And getting back to the Silk Road, again, we have Islam spreading along the Silk Road and the establishment of communities of Muslims where the collection of information of manuscripts would be something of great importance because there was no printing press in these early days. So libraries were established across the Silk Road, from the oldest one in Fez from the 10th century to, of course, modern libraries like at the Imam Reza Shrine today in Mashhad, which started back in the 10th century as well. But this is one of the largest libraries for the study of fiqh, Islamic Quran, Hadith, the life of the Prophet ﷺ. So we have this knowledge base. But if we look at even something like a library in Bukhara, which unfortunately is no longer the great library that it had been, we know that Ibn Sina, one of the great physicians and scholars, learned from that library. And then, of course, the Western knowledge that we actually gave, as Muslims gave to the West, came from the library in Cordova with over 400,000 volumes. This is an extraordinary thing when you think about the seeking of knowledge. And how is that possible through manuscripts? Well, manuscripts had to be copied by hand. Men and women were the ones that were doing the copying. And of course, you had to know, you had to be able to write. And the language was Arabic because that's the language of the Quran. And so when you think about the role of writing, of fine handwriting, of calligraphy, you can see the emphasis again on this ability to transfer the message into something written, a written form. So calligraphy becomes a major decorative motif, ornamentation motif of all Islamic art, especially in a religious context. Now, there's a prohibition against the figural representation in a religious context, but not in a context of teaching. So texts on natural science and on medicine would have illustrations, obviously, of the human form and plants and so on. But in a religious context, calligraphy was a major major point of decoration, obviously, and also, of course, of writing down. And unfortunately, today, fine handwriting isn't really appreciated, which is greatly a shame. Of course, when we think about travelers who are the ones who spread this, there are many to bring up. I'm sure you all know Ibn Battuta. He's quite well known in the West. I bring him up again, basically because I want you to just be aware that he was not the only one. He was not the greatest of all travelers, but certainly he was one that wrote an incredible retla for us, left it before he passed away, about his incredible journeys. Some 29 years covering 75,000 miles, going over 44 countries, modern day countries, starting from the age of 21. And ostensibly he had left his home in Tangiers, Morocco, to go on a trip to go to the Hajj. But he went on many Hajjes. But this traveling, this ability to cross this grand amount of space made possible by the Silk Road was what spread Islam. And of course, he carried this message and brought back so much information about what he saw. Another example, I think, that we don't often bring up as considering as a traveler, but was one who was a major force for the spread of Islam in Southeast Asia, is Zheng He. Zheng He was actually the admiral in charge of the great Ming treasure ships. He was a Muslim boy who had been brought to the Ming court as a small child, raised in the court, and then became the commander, the admiral of this incredible fleet of ships. That was not to go out and conquer, but to spread Chinese diplomacy and to make treaties. And so he traveled all the way from China to, some say, the west coast of Africa. Some say he even went to the Pacific Ocean. All of this is something quite interesting to think about. And he's just, again, one of our travelers who left us information about what he saw. Of course, throughout the Islamic world, wherever Muslims were, mosques were established. And I've chosen a few just to give you sort of something that you might not ordinarily see would be the mosque in China, one of the oldest ones from the 8th century, one in Thailand, which I thought was rather interesting for you to see. I think it's a Shia mosque, as far as I know. And also, of course, the idea of one of the largest mosques in the world outside of Arabia, which is the mosque in Jakarta. So that you can notice the building styles, which are quite relevant to the particular style of the country in which they're in. But one thing I wanted to emphasize to give you a sort of a sense of that role of knowledge and how it really plays along in this decoration of structures along the Silk Road is in the construction of these tiles. And this is something that really came to the attention of a Princeton professor, Philip Liu, back quite a while ago, about maybe 10, 15 years ago, in which he was pointing out that these tile patterns are not something that are simply made by a compass and a straight edge. These are very complicated patterns that require a tremendously advanced knowledge of mathematics. And in fact, these patterns are not even brought up into the Western world until the 1970s and labeled Penrose patterns because of the so-called discover of them when they had been used on Islamic buildings since the 14th and 15th century. So this again shows this level of engineering and desire for knowledge. And I'm sure many of you are familiar with these incredible muqarnas, as they're known, or stalactite niching, these wonderful ways of gracing the ceilings and the interiors of these large vaulted openings into mosque structures, again, across the Silk Road. And these, of course, require extraordinary mathematical knowledge, construction knowledge, architectural knowledge. So when you think about what Islam has given to us today, that the knowledge of the modern world is on the backs of our great scientists, engineers who are Muslims, algebra, from the Khwarizmi, starting algebra, all of this, we owe a tremendous thanks to those travelers who braved the rigorous journey across this vast amount of territory and left us so much with such generosity so that Europe would be able to take over and lead on in the way of the passage of this sense of knowledge. It's an extraordinary contribution. And so you participants, congratulations to all of you, and to good luck with your speeches and good luck in your future. You're the youth. You have an incredible legacy behind you. If you're interested in any more information, I know that you can reach me through MSA-PSG. I'd be happy to share lots of information and bibliography and resources for you. It's an extraordinary subject, and I think it's something that all of you would enjoy looking further into. At any rate, I again congratulate you. Assalamu alaikum. Good luck with your talks. And thank you for listening to my keynote address for today.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Dr. Mowassat. That was amazing and really powerful, honestly, especially when you were mentioning how we are frequently told that, oh, this happened in this later year, when in fact it had such a deeper history within the context of Islamic society. And so I always appreciate those types of reminders. And it's especially nice that you had such like clear examples of those. So it wasn't just a statement, right? You had example after example after example. So thank you again. We appreciate that you opened our MATIN talk contest today. So thank you so much. Let's thank her in the Islamic fashion and recite a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you again to my salawat team at home. And also, last but not least, thank you to the judges who are now about to get ready to hear from our first contestant. So I'm just gonna jump straight to it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'd like to introduce Brother Muhammad Mirza. He is 13 years old, hailing from Houston, Texas. He studies at Al-Hadi and, get this, is an advanced JavaScript developer and Swift. He does both of these as a hobby, which makes sense because he's 13 years old, probably has strong academic responsibilities currently. He has been an active member of the Al-Qasim Youth of IEC Houston for 4 years, and he also teaches JavaScript to other people. So you can find his projects on his website, Muhammad Hani Mirza at imfast.io. That's really cool that you have a website. And let's welcome him with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. Know that the life of this world is mere diversion and play, glamour and mutual vainglory among you, and rivalry for wealth and children. God, Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. God Almighty in Surah Hadith, verse number 20, talks about the worldly people who do not believe in any world except for the apparent worldly life. Therefore, their only endeavor is that they should not miss out from the worldly delights and taste. Their lives are spent in lahwul la'ib, anything that is mere diversion from the remembrance of God, be it our beauty, wealth, position, Netflix, Tesla, or PlayStation. Since the people of this world never care for Allah and the hereafter, they do not do any such thing that has an everlasting effect. Consequently, their deeds prove fruitless and hollow. In recent years, we have seen a trend of excessive video gaming in the youth. Some kids who play video games meet the clinical criteria for an addiction. In this sense, video games dominate their lives. Playing gives them the sense of euphoria, or at least a sense of relief from unpleasant feelings. Some kids who play video games become sedentary and experience withdrawal if they're denied access to their games. They might spend too much time on the couch, becoming more sedentary and socially reclusive. They might neglect their chores or homework, and they might fail to develop the ability to entertain themselves. Some signs which appear in kids when they start meeting the gaming disorder is that they think about gaming a lot of the time. They feel bad when they can't play. They're not able to play less. They don't want to do other thing that they used to like. They're having problems at work, school, or home because of gaming. They're using gaming to ease bad moods and feelings. You can call these kids Game Boys because they play games a lot. The chart above shows the general aggression model GAM a child has after playing a certain type of video game, like violent or non-violent, and in those categories, online and offline. Some of the popular games, I'm going to be discussing some of the popular games today, but not to name them. I'll be using two names that are not actually the game's name. So one of the games is Overnight, which is a made-up name I made. It's a very popular game among kids my age or even younger. It is known for being violent, addictive, and rage-inducing in children. In this game, you attack and shoot enemies with weapons and build defenses while playing the game. Players can hear profanity and racist name-calling from others, as well as exchange voice chat messages with strangers. Now, the next game, which is a real game, but the name's made up, is Goldilocks. This Goldilocks game is very famous amongst all sorts of ages. It is a vast online platform where kids can interact in 3D world. Players are given the opportunity to create an avatar player for themselves and allot a small amount of digital money to rent a house. To furnish and decorate the house, it requires real world money. With cost adding up fast. Players who don't upgrade may be mocked by other players and persuaded into spending more. But why is it such a risk to your child? Well, other than bankrupting you, I see a larger risk, which is the social interaction amongst players. The purpose of this game is for players to interact and make friends. This is achieved by wandering around a vast online world and stopping to talk with players with an unmodded chat feature. Not just that, this game is known for showing bad morals, like this world called Jailbreak, which I have a picture up here. In this world, you escape from prison, first of all, and you steal from shops. This problem isn't unique to these games. Far from it. Through the online gaming world, wherever games are advertised to children, online predators lurk. Social games like these are often used as platforms to lure children away from the game onto other platforms like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and even in some cases, Skype. The game invites players to explore imaginary worlds of all kinds. There are a lot of other issues that I deem inappropriate to talk about here. Many psychologists say that the chat function proposes a real danger to children playing the popular game. With limited safety measures embedded within the game, children are open prey for predators to communicate with. Consider it similar to sending a child out to a real-world room filled with strangers with no barriers in place to whoever they like to talk to. Let's discuss some school shooting events in the United States of America's history linked to violent video content. The Sandy Hook school shooter had an intensive exposure to violent video content. The shooter was an expert player of violent video games. His role model was the Columbine High School shooter, of course, because he was also a professional video gamer. Now we are what we consume, right? We all agree. Now look at this yummy looking burger right here. The creator of the burger put a certain amount of fat, proteins, and carbs, and they all become part of us when we consume it. Similarly with video games, when we consume the video content, we also consume the creator's thoughts and ideologies, which he put into the game while creating the game. So now close your eyes for a second and think about this. You're letting your children bring a stranger into your house to babysit them, and they're in their room alone talking with that stranger, and that you're allowing that stranger to put his thoughts and ideologies within you. Now look how scary that is. After all, hasn't Imam Ali alayhi salam has said, surely the heart of the youth is like uncultivated ground. It will accept whatever you throw upon it, and that's what will grow from it. What we consume during our youth is what will grow out of us and become our character. Let's talk about some solutions. Getting help from your doctor or therapist as soon as you think gaming is getting out of your hand. Studies about video gaming are also conducted in the early stages. One therapy is called CBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy. It is a mental health counseling that teaches you how to replace thoughts about gaming with other thoughts. Of course, parental involvement is the key to treatment. So now we need to look at how to prevent this addiction from getting out of your hands. To keep the amount of time spent under control gaming, try these tips for adults and kids alike. Limit the screen time and stick to them. Get gadgets out of the bedroom so they won't play into the night. Exercise and do outdoor activities so you won't have to spend that time in playing games. Excessive video gaming is also a very common issue in the Muslim community. Is it Islamically appropriate to play games that glorify mayhem, thieving, killing, and magic? Isn't it time that we come together and provide a solution for excessive video gaming and excessive screen time in general within the youth? We need to have active youth committees in our centers to plan youth activities on a regular basis, and introduce good role models like the prophets and the imams and the people in history, and also engage the youth in character building and empower them by teaching them life skills. After all, hasn't Prophet Muhammad said that there's not a single young person who turns away from the transit world and its pleasures only for the pleasures of Allah and spends his youth in the obedience of Allah until he reaches an old age, except that Allah would grant him the reward of 72 truthful and righteous people? I hope you have a nice time. Now, if you want to check out if you have the addiction or not, please check out the survey. This is a test to see with a few questions. rb.gy/QOPEVA, rb.gy/QOPEVA. I hope you have a nice time. Thank you for listening to me. Khudafis.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Brother Muhammad. Let's thank him with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. That was very, very powerful. Really appreciate it. I think it's also particularly pertinent in these times when we're quarantined at home. So it's me and all my screens, right? And so I think I appreciate the invitation to be critical and to think about those things. Also love that you threw in that survey so that we can all check in on our game addictions. Disclaimer, I actually don't play video games, but I see how it happens. I definitely have seen what you're describing. So judges, as you're judging, remembering the criteria, 10 minutes, clear and effective presentation, and mobilizes an Islamic paradigm. I want to just share that if you're interested in hearing more talks like this one, on the MATIN Talks Instagram and on the MATIN Talks Facebook page, you can find videos from previous contestants, and I invite all of you to check them out. Another cool thing is that on the MATIN Talks Instagram, there's always these fun trivia facts that they post, one of which was about a Muslim man who had learned how to fly he was in the air for 10 minutes, which is significant if you've ever tried to fly with, only your household supplies around you, way prior to the Wright brothers. So I think in line with Professor Movastat's speech earlier, I think it's really cool to learn these things about our deep history, and MATIN Talks Instagram is one place where you can do that. So great. And now let me go ahead and hopefully that I bought you enough time to capture all your notes, think about the criteria. So now I'd like to introduce our next contestant, Sister Shahana Mustafa, who is from San Jose, California. She is a high schooler who hopes to be a surgeon when she grows up. Really fun fact is that she's a previous MATIN Talks contestant in 2018. She spoke in Arizona. So let's see how she's done the in-person one. And so it'll be really powerful to view her doing this on a virtual stage. So let's please invite her with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay. I met you at a gathering. We were talking, and all of a sudden everything went blank. I could hear you, but I couldn't see you. I blinked once, blinked twice, and I continued to blink until I realized that it wouldn't help. My heart is beating extremely fast. I'm still at the gathering, but now I'm a completely different person. It just took 1 second for Allah to take away my eyesight, and now I have turned from an independent person to helpless. Assalamu alaikum, my name is Shahana Mustafa. Now, in this situation, I would give everything just to receive my eyesight back. Everything else would be meaningless to me without it. It shows how every blessing has a significant value, and it is our responsibility to appreciate them. Shukr is the Arabic word that means thankfulness or gratitude. Shukr is a perfect philosophy for life, irrespective of our faith. It makes up half of our faith. It helps guide us to the right path and helps us distinguish between truth and falsehood. In the Quran, it says that those who are grateful will be rewarded, and those who are ungrateful will be punished. In the Quran, in Surah 16, verse 18, it says, "If you were to count Allah's blessings, you would never be able to number them. Surely He is all-forgiving, most merciful." Consider the human body. It is made up of trillions of cells. Each cell is a blessing from God, but each cell is also exposed to an incalculable number of potential threats, from viruses to cancer to a variety of different malfunctions. It is only through God's mercy does He protect us from all these dangers. Of course, the people in our lives cannot be overlooked as blessings. We have our parents who care for us from our youth and beyond. We have our siblings, cousins, friends, teachers, and more. We even have our service workers, those who help us send out our mail, or even those who help check out our groceries. There are so many people we cross on a day-to-day basis, many of whom may simply spare a smile, or even give us an opportunity that could change our lives. All these people bring us some sort of joy, assistance, or convenience, and those aren't just mere coincidences. We often do not notice a blessing we have until we lose that blessing or we are threatened with its loss. A perfect example could be the situation we are currently facing. It is a reminder that our life is fragile, and we have to remember and appreciate the blessings we have, such as good health, shelter, food, etc. To help us remember each and every blessing we have, the Quran repeatedly reminds us to always have gratitude. Gratitude is to acknowledge the fact that all praise is for Allah, is to sincerely believe in it. It is to repeat it through sickness or health, in happiness or sorrow, in fear or safety. In any situation you go through, when the pain is unbearable, but not at the end of it. but rather right at the beginning and throughout it. That's gratitude. It is our duty to praise God for empowering us to do that which others are incapable of doing. Allah motivates us in the Quran by saying that He will reward those who are grateful. If you take a look at the first chapter in the Quran, it gives us a lesson about gratitude. The second chapter, which is the longest chapter in the Quran, invites us to the belief in one God. Therefore, you could say that gratefulness leads to the path of faith. There are so many surahs and verses in the Quran that signify the importance of blessings, one of them being Surah Rahman. The Prophet ﷺ once went to his companions and recited Surah Rahman, but they were all quiet. He then told them that when he recited the verses and which of the favors of the Lord would you deny to the jinn, they would respond by saying, there is nothing among your bounties that we can deny. All praises for Allah. Also, in Surah Baqarah, verse 152, it says, therefore remember me, I will remember you. Be grateful to me and never be ungrateful to me. Allah always mentions in the Quran, to be thankful to Him and always show gratitude. You may wonder why. No, it is not because it makes a difference to Him, and certainly not because He needs our thanks, but instead because it would make a positive difference in our lives. There are three ways we can show. Here's just a few of the other verses, of the many verses. There's so many verses in the Quran, and here are just a few. There are so many ways that we can express gratitude, but three of them being our tongue, our heart, tongue, and limbs. We can express gratitude through our heart by always maintaining good intentions. We can use our tongue to express gratitude through the words we use. We can use our limbs in a way that would help the people surrounding us. But part of the thanks we owe to God is to give something of what we are blessed with to those who cannot do for themselves. In today's world, there are over 736 million people in poverty surviving off of less than $1.90 every day, and a total of 821.6 million malnourished people. We have to actively support our community to help end the race for worldwide problems. The least we could do could be by donating, signing petitions, spreading awareness, etc. There's an amazing story of a man who went to Egypt in search of pious people so he could spend time with them and learn something from them. As he was on his way to Egypt, he passed by a deserted tent. He then saw a man without arms or legs making dua to Allah, saying, "O Allah, I praise you in the way which is equivalent to the praise of your entire creation. I praise you for making me superior to many people in your creation." After seeing the condition of this man, the visitor wanted to learn from him and asked the man, "What is it that Allah has given you that you're praising so much?" So he asked the pious man, to which he responded, "Allah has willed this for me. Should I not be happy because Allah hasn't given me hands or feet? But if Allah willed, He could send the lightning and it could be destroyed. He could send the wind and I could be destroyed. He could split up the earth and it would swallow me. And Allah has not done that. It is my job to thank Allah for the safety He has given me and that He hasn't punished me from His wrath." Mind you, a man without arms or legs is making dua to Allah and praising Him and thanking Him for simply giving him life. If we take this to ourselves, we are often caught comparing our lives to others. We compare our materialistic items. We compare ourselves to our friends and neighbors, saying, "My friend has a better car than me. My friend has a better phone than me. My friend has this and that." But compared to these smaller things, compare yourself to this man. The man who doesn't have eyes or legs yet is always praising God for simply giving him a chance to live. God's blessings are what takes us out of the darkness of ignorance into the light of faith and guides us to the true religion. However, all these blessings will cease to exist when the life in this dunya comes to an end. The only blessing that is bound to bring about happiness and tranquility in this life and eternal bliss in the hereafter is the blessing of being able to live in the path of faith, which is undeniably the greatest blessing Allah has ever bestowed upon us. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Sister Shahana. Let's thank her for her beautiful presentation with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Judges, while you judge, I'm going to share another important fact about national competitions. I mentioned earlier that if you're interested in participating in the national competitions, that it's real simple to get a heads up about the deadline. I want to specifically talk about nominations. So as you're watching this, if there is someone in your community or your friend group or even your family, maybe a sibling or a parent, and you think that they have an idea that deserves to be on a stage, or you feel like it's a powerful idea, people should hear about it. And if so, which I honestly believe is probably the case for a lot of folks tuning in today, I invite you to nominate them using the website. I also invite you, if you yourself personally have an idea, I invite you to nominate yourself. And I know that sounds weird because we usually experience nominations as someone else nominates me. If I knew you, I'd nominate you, but I don't know you and I want to hear from you, right? So I want to be able to one day see you on that stage when I tune in and watch, right? So I think this is an important step that you can take as well, where you nominate yourself and it's your way of telling yourself, look, for myself, Talia, look, I think this is a strong idea. I want to try. Let me get into the application phase. Let me see if they invite me. If you sign up to nominate yourself or someone else, that person, so you or that other person, will get an email when applications open, which is, as anyone who's ever tried to apply, meeting the deadline is always super important. So being able to get notified right on the bat is really valuable. Okay, great. So I hope that inspired a few of you and gave you all of the sense of confidence. I am 100% in support of you nominating yourself. No judgment there. As for where judgment is taking place, judges, thank you. Now let's move on to our third contestant, Brother Qasim Ali. So Qasim Ali is based out of central Pennsylvania. He lives with his two parents, Muhammad and Bhavani Ali, and his, quote, amazing siblings, which I believe you, I just need to mention that it was from his bio directly, his amazing siblings, Sakina, Kamal, and Fatima. Qasim's hobbies are basketball, reading the Quran, and learning more about Islam. When he grows up, he would like to play for the NBA, inshallah. So Steph Curry, LeBron James, everybody watch out. And he would like to teach Quran to others, mashallah. A really important piece is that Qasim is our youngest ever finalist. Amazing. Let's welcome him with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum. Today, I'll be talking about the significance and importance of the Black Lives Matter movement and how it relates to our lives as Muslims and lovers of the Ahlul Bayt today. Being an African-American Muslim and the grandson of immigrants connects me deeply to the Black Lives Matter movement. My great-great-grandfather, William O. Miller, was born in 1860. He was born into slavery and freed in 1865. He was described as a self-reliant, hard-working, and intelligent man. He had 18 children and established a family farm. My great-grandfather, Carl Miller, was born in 1905. He was part of the Great Migrations when Blacks left the South, hoping to escape poor economic conditions and racial oppression. My grandfather, Hassan F. Ali, was born in 1940. As you might realize, he has a Muslim name. That is because he converted to Islam after the first whole book he ever read, which was the Holy Quran, with only a middle school education. Alhamdulillah. My father, Muhammad Ali, was born in 1982. He was the firstborn after my grandmother embraced the school of Ahlul Bayt. He is now a chaplain serving in prison and university. I am Qasim Ali, and I was born in 2011. I love playing basketball, learning Quran, and learning about struggles against oppression. Immigrants are connected to the Black Lives Matter movement. My maternal grandparents immigrated to this country in the 1970s. Many Muslims immigrated to here around this time as well. The struggles that African Americans endured for freedom in this country made the road easier for immigrants, including the overturning of the National Origins Act in 1965, which allowed non-white immigrants to come to the U.S. However, many immigrant Muslim communities are isolated from African American Muslim communities today. It is important for all Americans, including immigrants, to understand our history, which is why I will be giving you more information about it today. There are many hadiths and ayahs in the Quran that support equality for all. One of which was one of Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, saying in his last sermon, he said, "There is no superiority over an Arab, for an Arab over a non-Arab, nor for a non-Arab over an Arab. Neither is the white superior over the black, nor is the black superior over the white, except by piety." Allah also says in the Quran in Surah Al-Hujurat, "Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum innallaha alimun khabir," which means, "Human beings, we created you all from male and female, and made you into nations and tribes so that you may know one another. Verily, the noblest of you in the sight of Allah is the most God-fearing of you." As we approach Muharram, we should acknowledge his saying, "Every day is Ashura and every land is Karbala." This saying represents the day of Ashura, when Imam Hussein stood up for oppression against Yazid, who was a tyrant and an oppressor. We need to also be like Imam Hussein, and we should stand up for oppression. And no matter what day it is, or what time, or where we are, we should stand up for oppression, because then we will override the people who do oppress others, and then nobody will be oppressing others. You might have seen some Christian co-workers or classmates have an accessory that says WWJD, which is an abbreviation for "What would Jesus do?" Christians have this because they want, at certain moments, they want to have a role model that they can think of what would they do, so that they can also act like that. But as Muslims, we should think of what would Imam Hussein do, because Imam Hussein was our teacher and he taught us many lessons. So as Muslims, we should think, what Imam Hussein do in many moments, so that we can have a role model also to look up to. As I go on forward in my presentation, I would like you to think about what would Imam Hussein do, and how would he respond to how people are oppressing African Americans. The Black Lives Matter movement started on July 13th, 2013, only 2 years after I was born. It is an international movement to acknowledge Black lives that have not been properly valued, treated, and portrayed. The Black Liberation Movement, the original BLM, which arose in the mid-1900s, is still ongoing. Beyond any organizational identity, Black lives do matter. Some people try to deny the movement of Black Lives Matter by responding with "all lives matter." Yes, all lives matter, and Allah created everyone, we're all equal. But if all lives truly mattered, then why have African Americans been oppressed for centuries? It's like saying, there's a block of houses and one house is on fire. The firemen come and start spraying down the house that isn't on fire. There's one house that's being under attack, burning down to the ground. This house represents Black lives that have been under attack. And that's why Black lives have to now be acknowledged, and they have to be acknowledged by many, and that's why they have their own movement that says Black Lives Matter. The next few slides, I'll be showing some of the victims of police brutality over the years. And like I said earlier, you should think, what would Imam Hussein do, and how would he address this? One of the victims are Tamir Rice, who was a 12-year-old African American who had a replica toy gun, and the police shot him for no reason and killed him. What would Imam Hussein do? Antoine Rose, another victim, was killed in 2016 by the police when he was riding his bike to school. What would Imam Hussein do? Breonna Taylor, a nurse, got shot in her own home while sleeping. What would Imam Hussein do? George Floyd, a 41-year-old man, was near a gas station when a police officer told him to get out of the car and was lodging his knee on his neck for nearly 9 minutes, which caused George Floyd to die of unconsciousness. What would Imam Hussein do? There are some people in sports history that have took a knee or protest for the excessive use of police brutality to minorities, especially African Americans. One of which was Colin Kaepernick, a football player who took a knee during the national anthem as a way to protest for the excessive use of police brutality against minorities, which especially against African Americans. Then the team collectively responded in a good way and also took a knee during the national anthem. But then as a result, Colin Kaepernick lost his job because people didn't like that he was protesting for African Americans. And the NFL prevented him from never ever getting a job again. But that didn't stop him from protesting for African Americans. What will you do? One that we should always do is make the law for all the people who have been oppressed for centuries. And you can also think of many other ways to protest for the excessive use of police brutality against minorities, especially African Americans. Thank you for listening to my presentation. May Allah join us with Imam Hussein on Judgment Day. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much, Brother Qasim. Let us thank him with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. That was a particularly important presentation. I think especially since these topics have really raised a lot of questions about who we are and how we should act. And I appreciate that your framing wasn't just about, look, there's this thing happening over there, you should think about it. You were thinking specifically, what should we be doing? So understanding and implementing that knowledge. So thank you again. Judges, I hope that you are faithfully taking notes and remembering the criteria. As a reminder, the winners of MATIN Talks Virtual will receive, the first place winner, will receive $300. Second place winner will receive, I'm so sorry, I think the first place winner receives $500, correct? Okay, thank you. First place winner, I apologize in advance, I was not trying to skim. So first place winner will receive $500, inshallah. Second place winner receives $250. And the third place winner receives $100. Importantly, all three winners will automatically get entered into round 1 of the MATIN Talks national competition, right? So they don't have to apply, they will get invited to present. This does not mean, again, that they are guaranteed a spot in the national competition, but they will be competing against the other finalists from the application pool. Great. So let's now move on to our fourth and final contestant, last but never least, Sister Fatima Nagavi. So Sister Fatima Nagavi is an upcoming junior in high school. She regularly writes and performs spoken word, beautiful, at community and school events. Fatima is heavily invested in student advocacy and delegations. She served as the 2019 Student Secretary General in a Model UN conference at the State Department. She is currently leading a project with Montgomery County Empower, it's like empower, but written Empower, dedicated to cultivating understanding between young women, Muslim and non-Muslim activists. In her free time, she enjoys training and chasing her flock of chickens, which I highly respect. That is hard work. So please welcome welcome Sister Fatima with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum.
All right, assalamu alaikum everyone. So before I get started with my actual presentation on comfort zones, I would like you all to head over to menti.com and use the code 88241 and then put in one good and one bad habit you have. And I'll display them on your screen so you guys can see it. Okay, so as you guys are filling that out, I want to tell you guys why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because this presentation is about you. And as I go through each slide, I want you guys to implement this good and bad habit and see how it plays into my presentation, how it plays into each slide. We'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, seems like not many people are on there. Focus, biting nails. Watching TV every day. Reading Quran, not cleaning up, waking up early, overeating. Great, yeah, wasting time, procrastination. These are all things we all struggle with. Lack of patience. Okay, great. Now that you guys have an idea of what your good and bad comfort zones are, I'm going to jump right into what a comfort zone is. So a comfort zone is anything you are accustomed to. It is your habits, it is the people you interact with, your passion, your job, your school, whatever that you have grown up with and you are accustomed to. So in this presentation, I want to focus on personal comfort zones, your relationship with yourself and your relationship with Allah, because most definitely that's really what the point of this life is, to become closer to Allah and to get further as far as we can on this journey. Okay, great. So my good and my bad habit, my good habit is praying 5 times a day, and my bad habit is not praying on time. So the 2 habits that I mentioned and the 2 habits that you mentioned are in your personal comfort zone. And these habits, you do them every day and they are within your comfort zone because you're accustomed to them. And so the reason why we're within our comfort zone is because we want to stay within things we are used to, we know the result of. And the reason why we don't want to step out of our comfort zone is the exact opposite. It's because we have a fear of the unknown. Imam Ali says this perfectly. He says, "An-nasu a'da'u ma jahilu." Indeed, man is an enemy of what he does not know. Enemy in the sense of we don't want to step out of our comfort zones because we're afraid of failure. Sometimes we're afraid of putting in more work than we're already putting in. We don't want to go near hard stuff. And other times we just don't want to do things we've never done before. We don't know the result of. It's easier to stay within a comfort zone that you know the result of and you know you will be successful at than trying to venture out into a new comfort zone, into a place that's outside your comfort zone, although you know it is better. But this fear of the unknown isn't always a bad thing. So take my good habit, right? My good habit was praying 5 times a day. Good comfort zones, good habits, offer you protection. Protection in the sense that it is bringing you closer to Allah. It is extending, it is bringing you closer to that journey towards Allah. And it protects me, especially this habit, praying 5 times a day, it protects me from going astray, from committing sins, and I should remain within that comfort zone for the specific reason that it's bringing me closer to Allah. And then we have bad comfort zones. My bad comfort zone was I wasn't praying on time, right? And that acts as a limitation because it limits me from reaching my full potential as a Muslim. It limits me from becoming that much closer to Allah. It is preventing me from reaching that full potential. So the question ultimately becomes, how do I know if I should embrace a comfort zone or if I should step out of a comfort zone? So that fear of the unknown, that comfort zone, is it taking you away from Allah? If yes, then most definitely you should be stepping out of it. If no, then you should remain within your comfort zone and you should embrace it and learn to become better in that certain comfort zone. Jihad an-nafs requires us to embrace our good comfort zones and step away and step out of our bad comfort zones on this journey towards becoming a better Muslim and towards Allah. So now that we went over what comfort zones are, why we seek comfort, good and bad comfort zones, why we should remain in some, and why we should step out of, here's a 4-step practical solution called WARP. Number 1, write it down. Write down your what, why, and how. If my goal is to keep praying 5 times a day, I would write my what is keep praying 5 times a day. My why is it's making me closer to Allah and it's making me a better Muslim. And my how would be maybe I keep myself accountable every single night. If I want to step out of a comfort zone, my what would be, well, I want to start praying on time. My why would be, well, I know that I can do it. And the only thing preventing me really is my thoughts. And my how would be maybe setting an alarm for myself. Number 2 is asking for advice. Asking for advice really helps you refine your what, why, and how, and serves as motivation in the future if you feel like you're kind of straying away from that path of either remaining within a comfort zone or stepping out of a comfort zone. Number 3 is removing barriers, whether they be physical or mental barriers. And this is one of the most important steps because although comfort zones are formed by our environment, they are also formed by mental limitations we put in for ourselves. So to combat this, to step out of our comfort zone, we have to remove those mental barriers, those thoughts that tell us, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, this is going to take too much time, this is too hard, I've never done that before, right? And these are very subconscious thoughts. Like we don't realize we think of these thoughts every single day, but these thoughts are the very thoughts stopping us from reaching our full potential. And if you want to remain within a comfort zone, then you should keep that thought of becoming, you should keep that thought and you should tell yourself that I am doing my best and I am going to remain within that comfort zone and that's my goal. And number 4 is pushing yourself and practicing. Pushing myself by stepping out of my comfort zone every single day and holding myself accountable. Pushing myself and telling myself that I have done this to remain within my comfort zone and I am sure I will be successful because I'm practicing it every single day. Now, one important distinction to make between our comfort zones is good and bad comfort zones. And the reason I specifically chose praying 5 times a day versus praying on time is because if I want to step out of my bad comfort zone, which is praying 5 times a day, which is praying on time, if stepping out of that bad comfort zone also causes me to step out of my good comfort zone, which is praying 5 times a day, then I should not step out of that bad comfort zone. I should remain in that good comfort zone. I should keep praying 5 times a day, even if it's not on time, right? Rather than missing a few prayers, but having them be on time. It's more beneficial for you. It takes you further if you stay in that good comfort zone and if you further that good comfort zone. A reminder that I just want to leave you guys off with is don't compare your progress to anybody else's progress. Your progress, if it's praying 5 times a day, that's your good comfort zone and your goal is to keep it, then stay in that and stay doing that every single day. Become better every single day. Don't compare yourself with somebody who prays every day, reads Quran, prays on time. Don't compare yourself. You should only be comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. If you are better today than the person you were yesterday, then you are a successful person today. And if you think about that every single day, becoming better than who you were yesterday, you will ultimately become better than those people who always boast about being great. So don't compare yourself to other people. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Fatima. Let's now thank her with a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you also, Sister Fatima, for closing us out so powerfully. Really appreciate that. And I think especially when, again, we're in quarantine, we have a lot of time to reflect on these things. And so I value the reflection questions that came out of your presentation, including that last piece on not comparing ourselves. So judges, we are officially finished with our presentations and we are ready to vote. And I know that's going to be stressful and hard, but I invite you to do so fairly and equitably. As a reminder, the criteria: 10 minutes, clear and effective Islamic paradigm, right? So you should have all the information that you need to cast your votes. The vote information should be appearing below on this video at this time. I want to also thank our judges in advance, but I also want to thank our contestants. Y'all did a really hard job, which is to present virtually to a computer screen. And I think that that's a really important piece that not a lot of people are going to have experience doing, especially at your age. So congratulations for making it this far, and we are excited to transition to a transition video, after which we will announce the results. So again, the information for the voting is below. You go to the website listed and you enter that code, and so then you will be able to vote one time for the 3 contestants that you right, the 3 contestants, is that correct? So perfect. So 3 contestants that you feel like met those criteria. I know it's going to be hard, and I'm so glad I don't have that job. So inshallah khair, wishing you all the best of luck. Let's now transition to our video with a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum.
some that are here the first time, MATIN Talk gives you a platform to bring your ideas, to bring your creativity, to present in a format that you want.
Back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that sweet transition video, and I hope that at least some of you recognized some friends or maybe just people you've seen before on MATIN Talks. I know that we are now eagerly waiting for the results of the competition, and I would like to first thank everyone who has participated. First and foremost, let's begin with our keynote. Dr. Movassad, thank you for your presentation. Thank you to each of our 4 contestants, and thank you to the audience who tuned in, and a special thank you to the audience who tuned in and served as judges. That is all of you who inputted votes just now. And finally, thank you to the team behind scenes that we can't see. but they're doing a lot. I will assure you of this. We are really excited to announce the results, and I want to make an important announcement about a previous MATIN Talk contestant, Sister Zahra Mirnajafi. She's a PhD student in social psychology, and she's conducting a survey of Muslim opinions on current events and current issues today. And I think that if you all could please click through, enter her survey, and participate in this data collection, I think that would be a really valuable piece. This both is a testament to the fact that the MATIN Talks family really looks out for one another, and it's really a network to be connected with, and also the important piece of supporting Muslim-led research that tries to present an accurate narrative, right? Rather than having other people tell us the story, we tell the story ourselves. So I invite all of you to complete that survey. And I also invite all of you, at the very end, you will see a link for a survey about the experience that we've had today on MATIN Talk Virtual. For those of you who also were on the adult one, feel free to make comments about that experience as well. And so I want to invite all of you to take both surveys. I think can you tell we really care about your opinion? So please make sure to take both surveys, both Sister Zahra Mirnajafi's survey, collecting data on Muslim viewpoints on current events. And the survey link is going to be listed in the YouTube chat for Sister Zahra Mirnajafi. So everyone who's on YouTube, please look below. It should say it right there, top chat. And if you're on Facebook, either people will post it in the comment section, or you can easily just transfer yourself over to youtube.com/MSA-PSG, click on the live stream, and in that way you can look quickly at the survey link. While we are waiting on the results, I also want to make one more comment about MATIN Talks National. Again, you have been able to see a spread of the amazing talent that we have, mashallah, in our community. And honestly, you're missing from this stage, right? So please, I want to invite you to check out MATIN Talks on social media. Make sure you're following them so that you can get the notification for when applications open. Or you can also look online and click on the nomination. So go to matintalks.com, click on the nomination form, and that way you will be able to nominate yourself. Like I said, I fully support you in doing so, or nominate someone else. Both of these things will be really, really valuable. And I think if you are unsure, I want to just go ahead and encourage you to take the leap. Take the leap, nominate yourself or someone else. And if anything, push comes to shove, you decide at the very, very end you don't want to do it, which I hope that you decide at the very end that you do want to do it, but at least you'll have the option and you'll know when applications open. So that's for MATIN Talks National. And I would like to also invite you about the social media pages. So as you're taking the survey for Sister Zahra Mirnajafi, I just want to quickly share a little bit more about the social media pages, both on Instagram and on Facebook. They have a wealth of resources. And one of the resources that the Instagram page has for the people who are nervous about public speaking, or who are nervous about public speaking in front of strangers, which I will say is a completely different beast. For those folks, MATIN Talks social media accounts include a lot of information, tips and tricks that I think it's really worthwhile to look over. And I also want to give a quick, it's not an insider tip, honestly, because this is public information, but it feels like an insider tip. I want to give a quick tip that you can reach out to the MATIN Talks team for feedback on your abstract, on your video pitch, any type of feedback that you need as you're applying. And so if you feel like, look, I have an idea, I have a sense of how I would say it, but I really need some more support just to make sure, just to feel a little bit more confident going in, that support system is there for you. We're an ummah, we take care of one another. And while it is a competitive process, we're also still supportive, right? We want to help each other grow. So that's my final piece. I hope that by this time you have taken Sister Zahra Mirnajafi's survey. Again, the link was in the YouTube chat. And now I am excited to announce the results, the moment we have all been waiting for. The results are here in this envelope. I won't tell you how I got there. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. First, and before I announce the winners, before I open the proverbial but also literal envelope here, let's recite a loud salawat for each of our contestants, Brother Muhammad, Sister Fatima, Sister Shahana, and Brother Qasim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your efforts. Okay, all right. Whew. Okay, well, yeah, that was a hard decision, and here are the results. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In third place, we have Sister Fatima Nagavi. if this was in real life, you all would be reciting salawat. So I'm just going to do it. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. In second place, we have Brother Muhammad Mirza. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. And finally, in first place, we have, dramatic pause. In first place, we have Brother Qasim. Salawat bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. And lastly, thank you, Sister Shahana, for your participation in this competition. We all know this was not an easy decision to make, and we all know that each of you have made it through 2 rounds, applications, invite-only round 1, and finally this final presentation in front of a national audience. So it wasn't easy, and hats off to you. So let's do another salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Wow. Okay. So as a cool piece that we want to offer you all is that I would like to invite our first place winner to come on screen and share a little bit about how they're feeling. So if Brother Qasim would please join us. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Qasim.
Walaikum assalam.
How are you? How's it going? How are you feeling?
I'm good. I'm feeling really proud of myself and thankful of all my supporters, of my family.
That's great. Is there anything that you want to say in this moment? This is your, you know that scene where they go up to the board and they're like, this is my speech. Do you have a shout out you want to give or something you want to say?
No, not really.
Humble. I respect that. I respect that. Others would have taken this and gone in a wild direction. I respect that. Well, thank you again, Brother Qasim. We really appreciate your hard work. Did you spend a lot of time practicing?
Yes.
Wow, amazing. Great job. Well done. All right, well, let's recite. Qasim, will you recite a salawat with me for all the people who supported you in this process, and a shout out to the people who gave birth to you?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you so much, Brother Qasim.
Welcome.
Okay, that was really sweet. Thank you, Brother Qasim, for joining us on the screen here. I'd like to close out by reciting salawats for the contestants, the judges, the audience, the behind the scenes team. You can't see them, but they can see you. I guess data collection wise, they can see that you are viewing and they're doing a lot of work. They're still moving about on the screen. You just can't see them. So it's pretty impressive how much work they've put into this. And I want to give a shout out to them. I have the public facing role, and that usually means that I've done the least amount of work, and that is 100% accurate. So let's recite a loud salawat for them. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Before you click out of this link, do not forget, please take the survey, share with us your experiences, and give us any feedback that you'd like, even if it's positive or critical. Either way, we want it all. We want to hear from you. Thank you again for tuning in with us. We are sure we will see you around, and we will definitely see you during the national competition. Let's do our final salawat. Thanks again to the salawat team in their homes. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Thank you.